Partners in Ministry, a presentation of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation, dedicated to growing ministry support networks, introducing people to a cause that connects with their heart, bringing hope and encouragement to our communities as we seek together to serve as Christ served.
Welcome to Partners in Ministry. My name is Dan Smith, and today I'll be talking with Eric Klooz. Eric is the Executive Director of Abbott House in Mitchell, South Dakota. In today's interview, we're going to learn about Abbott House and explore ways you can connect with their ministry. Welcome, Eric, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dan. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
To get things started here, why don't you give us a brief history of Abbott House, would you?
Absolutely. Well, the Abbott House has been around for a long time. We started clear back in 1939. And the agency initially was what you'd call probably an orphanage. I think in South Dakota, they called it a receiving house, but children would come into the program, and then the Abbott House would try to adopt them out to other families. And oftentimes sometimes a farm family would bring 2 of their 5 children in because they just couldn't feed them all. And then Abbott House would help to get them out. And that program continued from 1939 up to the early 70s. And at that time, the Department of Social Services in South Dakota was formed, and they took over adoption services in the state. And most programs like the Abbott House just went out of business, stopped operating. But Abbott House hired a gentleman by the name of Ernie Peters, and he developed a treatment program for girls. And so initially there was just 8 girls in this treatment program. It was the first and only one in the state. And that program grew from that point in the 70s up to today, where we have 45 kids in our residential program and then other services that we provide as well.
Well, boy, your story really parallels that of Quakerdale. We had the same sort of thing in terms of starting out as an orphanage, going into residential treatment. Of course, we've done a little bit of a variety after that, but that is really interesting to see how God's brought kindred spirits together here.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a little background on your journey that God took you on to become the executive director? Because not everybody's equipped to handle the type of work that you've got to do.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I can tell you, as a young person, I would have never seen myself in this role, I don't think. But, for me, I think my heart for people started clear back as a younger child. I had a wonderful family, but my parents ended up in a divorce. And my brother and I went with my mother. And during that period, she decided to go back to college and try to get a degree. And so we ended up living with a set of grandparents for a period of time. And I didn't realize back then how lucky we were. Having divorced parents, that's not anything anybody wants to have. But we had a set of grandparents that were incredible. And my brother and I both tell you, they were the rock for us for a number of years there, and helped us get through and really helped me to later in life look back and have I think a big heart for people. There's so many individuals that come through a same situation like that, and it goes a total different direction because they just don't have the support, the family support. And so that really, I think, got me in the space, at least working in this field.
Sure.
Then I ended up in Omaha, Nebraska after college and worked for a couple of wonderful organizations. One, the Omaha Home for Boys. Just learned a tremendous amount about programming and about how to set up programs. And in the end, the Abbott House came to the Omaha Home for Boys looking for a director. And we're actually talking with my boss, who wasn't interested in leaving Omaha. And just in passing one day, he said, you'd be good for that. And I got to talking with the people at Abbott House and ended up here and been here for 18 years now. So.
Wow, that's quite the journey. It's amazing how God uses our past to build one layer upon a layer to all of a sudden you're going to doing something, like you said, you never expected. I think part of that's because if he would have told you 18 years ago what you'd be doing, we'd pull one of those Jonahs where we'd get on a ship and go the other way really, really quick.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know that the first 5 or 6 years was a straight uphill climb. So absolutely.
Sure. Well, you mentioned that the history is starting out as an orphanage, and then now you've kind of got some residential treatment. Who are you serving today, and how do these youth get to be a part of your program?
Sure. Currently we have 3 different programs. We've got the residential treatment program, which we would say is kind of our flagship program. We're well known in South Dakota for the treatment that we provide for girls in the residential program. For our young people that come to the residential program, it's really their last stop here in South Dakota. Many of them have been other places. They've gotten to a point where um, suicidal behaviors and thoughts,
Mm.
and really just at a spot where they don't have a lot of hope for the future. And we're good at working with those young people and helping to turn things around. And then from the residential program, about 10 years ago, we developed a program we call Bridges. And that's our foster care and independent living program. And we do foster care a bit differently. We actually buy or build large homes, seven bedroom homes, and then we hire a married couple to live in there, and we provide supervision and therapy services for kids that are coming out of the residential programs like the Abbott House. And then beyond that, when they turn 18 and age out of what we call the foster care system, we have some apartments, 8 of them here in Mitchell and 8 out in Rapid City, that we have for kids as they turn 18 and need some continued support as they get going in life. And so those are the 3 really programs that we have. Youth can come to the programs in many different ways. The Department of Social Services, the Department of Corrections, and Indian Health Services here in South Dakota can place youth in all of our programs. But then our residential program today, over 60% of the kids we get are actually placed by a family member. South Dakota has, I think, a wonderful system for families, and that kids don't have to go into the court system to come and get treatment. Families can petition Medicaid if they reach certain criteria, and Medicaid can approve the child to come and get treatment. And so we serve a lot of those young people through our programs as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it really sounds like what you've kind of done is set up a support network that basically can help a kid early on when things aren't really getting bad, move into a foster type of situation. And then once they are old enough that they need to start learning how to live on their own, they can move into this transitional living type of an environment. So it acts like you're kind of providing a large support network for the kids to have what they probably are not having in their own home. Is that right?
No, that's exactly right. Yep. And we've been pretty blessed here in South Dakota. Everything that we've done, we built the program off of fundraising dollars, and we've just had some wonderful support here in the state. And I'll never forget, we had a young lady in our program actually wrote a letter. She was 14 and she wanted to move into one of our foster homes. We didn't have any spots, and we only had one home at the time. And anyhow, she wrote a letter in a spirituality group asking God to give her a family and somebody to love and somebody that she could love back. And we took that letter to a board meeting, and within 6 months, we raised the money we needed and built 2 homes here in Mitchell. And she was the
Wow.
first girl placed. So we've been really blessed by the people here in South Dakota and businesses, that have helped us to build that continuum for the kids.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at how God works by having us present opportunity. He then takes that and speaks to the heart of people that are hearing that message. And then the Holy Spirit moves people to jump on board and provide the help they need. I just, it just gives me chills thinking about how he does it. And he does it over and over and over again, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yeah. And usually when you think you can't, that's when you step back and you see what all happens, it's pretty amazing. So
Yeah, that's when we're best reliant on his power and strength and abilities rather than our own. I'm sure that's intentional.
yeah. Yep. I think you're right.
So what kind of transformation are you seeing in the lives of these kids? Give us an example of some of the things that you're seeing happening.
Sure. And I kind of explained some of the situations kids come in with. I mean, we really get young people who have given up hope in life, and they'll tell you that. We see youth that come into our program, they've been aggressive, they've been suicidal, they've done things, like that. And when they come in, oftentimes we'll see a youngster display some behavior, maybe it's aggressive behavior, and then they'll sit down and they'll cry and they'll say, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to." And it's true, they didn't. But many of them have been in these traumatic situations where they get overwhelmed and then they react. And it's more of a survival reaction than anything else.
Mm.
And we have, again, been fortunate. We built a trauma-informed program. We use a program called Trust-Based Relational Intervention out of Texas Christian University. It's wonderful. And it's really built on the fact that we meet kids where they're at, try to build trust with them. And once we've built a relationship, then we can start speaking into their lives and helping them to make some changes. And One of the programs we have here through our system is called neurofeedback. And it's a program where we actually do brain scans with the children. They can see on a screen what's going on, how the neurons are firing, and we can show them where maybe there's a hot spot where they get angry too easily and too quickly. And then we've got some training programs we can put them through, and we can do another brain scan and show them how the brain is now operating a little bit differently. And it starts to give them hope for change, and it gets them to really make the distinction that it's not inherently in them what's going on. It's something that's happened to them, and that we can help them make changes. And as soon as we get the kids to accept that or kind of latch onto that, then things start happening. So it's just an exciting program.
Well, I don't know that I've ever heard about how technology can actually help along that line. That is fascinating.
It's really neat. We started down that road probably 8 years ago. We had children that were coming to our program, and one year we asked 27 of them to leave because we couldn't help them make any changes. And so we read some books and went to trainings, and we actually found in a book from a group out in Boston this neurofeedback programming that was available, and we got a grant, and we've actually got 3 different systems here in our building now that we work with kids to use that. And it's just one of the things we use, but it's been very effective.
Wow. That just is so fascinating to think that there's a direct connection between helping provide people with their spiritual and emotional support actually has a physiological change as well.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, I am sure, like me, that there's some people that are watching us that are saying, you know what, this is a ministry I would really like to try to get involved with. If somebody wanted to become either a volunteer, a prayer partner, annual donor, legacy builder, or part of your communication team, how would they do that? What would be the first step that they should take?
Sure. Well, we have our website. So depending on where you're at, it's www.abbothouse.org. And that's a great place to connect because all of our information is on there. But we have volunteers that come into our programs to work with the kids. We've got tutors that come into our school here in the building. We have volunteers that go into our foster homes and help kids prepare meals, or we've had a group of ladies come in and take kids to events like hockey games or out hiking in the hills by Rapid City. And then we have a group that comes from 2 different churches here in Mitchell that come in and do activities with our girls on Sundays here at the Abbott House, which is wonderful. And then we also have, people that are just out there helping us with projects that we do. So one of the things we do that's kind of unique here is we rebuild Harley motorcycles. So our girls work with some volunteers that come in each week, and they redesign and tear apart and rebuild a motorcycle. And then we sell raffle tickets for it. And we've got another group of volunteers that goes out and takes pictures of the bike and sells these raffle tickets to help raise funds for the program. So there's many, many different ways that volunteers can get involved. We have people, you talked about annual giving. We have people that just provide annual gifts each year. We raised almost $500,000 a year to support our programs through annual funds. That's through the bike project and through raffles that we do, and then just through solicitation letters we send out and people respond to. So that's a way to be involved if you don't have time to volunteer and be here physically, or if you don't live in the area. And then we also have many different services. You talked about one before we got on the air here, but we do mailings, and we have a group of people sometimes that come in and help stuff letters. We have actually a guy that helps us write some of the letters that we send out. He's from Pennsylvania, and he always donates a big chunk of his time to help us get those completed and out to people. So,
oh, that is awesome. I just want to thank you for just a great overview and letting us hear about the ministry of Abbott House. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here.
You bet. Hey, if you got any questions, or if you'd like to learn more about Abbott House, you can see their contact information here on the screen. You can also find it in the show notes for this episode on our website, or you can see it in the description of this YouTube video. On behalf of Abbott House, Eric Klooz, and Partners in Ministry, I want to thank you for joining us today. And until next time, let's get out there and serve as Christ serves.
This has been a presentation of Partners in Ministry, a podcast of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation. To learn more and see the show notes for this and other episodes, visit our website. To stay informed of up and coming broadcasts, subscribe to our e-newsletter. To invest in our mission, donate today.